Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to sit again with Pearl Gregor. I am Marisa Goudy. We are here to talk about dreams and sovereignty and wise woman ways and all the great caves and caverns that make us wonder and fill us with laughter. I think today, though, we're going to start with three vultures, or three turkey vultures I saw in my backyard. And Pearl and I are laughing because we were just discussing a great deal of metaphysics and theology and passages from each other's books. And Pearl said, "But Marisa, what do you want to talk about?" And I said, "Well, right now on my mind, I'm thinking about the three vultures I was speaking with this morning in my backyard."
And I said, Marisa, do you know what that's all about? And she said, oh,
let's press record.
let's press record. So let me tell you about the vultures. I'll take you back. You see, I'm old. I just have to tell one story after another. I am in a Reiki session in Banff, Alberta. I've been there for a conference. It's a conference on creating a caring and equitable society. And I'm having a bit of a struggle because the big topic of the day seems to be the pink cover of Nell Nodding's book. It's inappropriate because it's pink, and I'm kind of losing my mind. And I book a Reiki session, and so I go off to my Reiki session the next morning or the next noon, I'm not too sure. And I go into the most amazing Reiki session of my life. And in the first few minutes, above my head appears a set of praying hands. My crown chakra is a deep blue, and above my head is a golden yellow, and above that are these praying hands. And as the session progresses, a vulture and an owl appear. I haven't got a clue what this means, but I am a very curious person. When I get home, I'm reading When God Was a Woman. And the vulture and the owl. The owl is symbolic of Lilith, Adam's first wife. The vulture is yet another goddess symbol. Now, you say to yourself, a vulture? Because we're kind of used to the idea of the goddess is pretty and pink and all that other kind of stuff. No, and the vulture says to me, I am here to destroy your flesh and pick your bones clean. I take a really deep breath, but what does that mean? In a Reiki session. And the session continues, and to make a very long story short, I birth my eldest child, rebirth my eldest child, and the goop that pours out of my body, I ask the Reiki lady to put a bucket under my feet. Repressed trauma, that first child was a very traumatic birth for both of us. And the trauma that's repressed in my body pours out into this bucket on the floor. I've never felt quite that good for years before that. So welcome your vulture, let it pick clean whatever it needs. The vulture is very, very important in our society. When I visited in Costa Rica, the beach was filled with vultures. They came every morning and cleaned up, you know? And so we need them to clean up and to reorder our universe. So there's not a lot of rotten stuff left around.
Yes.
Anyway, so that's the story, my story of the vulture. So enjoy your day.
Well, the vultures were known as my sisters. Whenever the kids see one soaring or in the backyard, they're in a dead ash tree that was, around the Northeast, we've lost many ashes. We have these gorgeous, tall, I mean, this is, I haven't used this big fancy camera in years. I had it charged up specifically because I've been trying to capture these birds. They sit in the morning and they have to dry their wings.
Right.
And so they're doing that full thing in a dead tree with the rising sun. There's 3 of them, and then in swoops a golden hawk. We have red-shouldered hawks that live in the neighborhood.
Right.
They're sitting, the 4 of them, and I haven't really looked at the pictures carefully. It's as if they're in conversation, and I didn't have a chance to look at the symbolism of the hawk. Let's talk about that. To me, it felt very much of this trinity of the feminine, of these dark goddesses, of Hecate, of these primordial beings who are here for life and death and rebirth and the cleanup of it all. And then in swoops the hawk, smaller in stature, minding their own place, minding his own place, I might say, and finding a way to really be in that tree together, preening and healing and having some level of community.
And a golden hawk.
Golden colored, yes.
Right, golden colored hawk. And the symbolism of 3 is profound.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our bodies are symbolic of 3 almost. Like we're like, look at the hand and the forearm and the upper arm. I mean, we can go on and on about the symbolism of 3, the Trinity, the 3 little pigs. It's all over the place.
The princess, the queen, the wise woman, the maid, the mother, the crone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it's interesting to me once one becomes aware of how symbolic everything is on the earth. Mm-hmm. How much more rich life actually is.
Yes.
You know?
Are you ready for what the Latin name of the turkey vulture is?
I'm waiting.
So it is the Cathartes Aura, which means golden purifier.
Golden purifier.
Next to a golden colored hawk.
That's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. Golden purifier. I have to write that down because I really am planning to make a blog around this vulture. In fact, I'm putting it up soon on my website, the whole story of that Reiki treatment, because there's 6 images that came out of that treatment. Wow. But the vulture just sticks in my mind because they're unknown to Canada.
Really?
Not that, I mean, maybe they're not unknown. I shouldn't use that word. They're unknown to me in Canada. I've not seen them.
Oh, they're everywhere here in the Hudson Valley.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the Hudson Valley, that was my next one of the thoughts I've had when we're not in conversation was I was in the Hudson Valley in 1991, I do believe, at the Mary Knowles Center for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of where that is.
It was exquisite. I could have just melted into that forest like Zane Grey's books when he talked about the Aboriginal people just melting into the forest was his phrase, which is kind of off the topic of vultures, but it just popped into my head again with the Hudson Valley.
Well, I feel like they are so tied to the spirit of this land because part of their magic is their ability really to levitate and ride the waves. And so the Hudson Valley is marked by this great dip. And there's so many cliffs we have here. The Shawangunk Ridge it's just south of the Catskill Mountains, right? So that's my section of the valley. So we can see that from our house. When we go hiking, we'll be hiking along the edge of the ridge, the edge of the cliff, and they'll hover right beside you. Right. And that's really where, I mean, my relationship began with crows and ravens. And then in moving here, it's like, they, because sometimes I see 2 turkey vultures and she's so big, she must be a raven. It's always hard to tell a crow from a raven sitting. That was a few weeks ago. And now we've moved to 3 turkey vultures and a golden hawk. And it feels, as I can interpret at this moment, knowing that we are in a much darker moment right now, in the sense that virus numbers are increasing. We have what's going on with Afghanistan. We've got the climate reports having come in. These last couple of weeks here in August of 2021 have been heavy, let's say. right?
Very heavy.
And when I was seeing the two vultures and the crow a few weeks ago, it was almost the harbinger of that, of like, yes, here we are in the midst of July, and isn't it all wonderful? And the world is reopening. Prepare. And now it feels like here's this next breath of, if we're in this great moment of darkness, if we think we are, well, you and I were speaking of caves earlier. We have so many ideas of caves, of when they are death
Yeah.
and destruction and ending and the fear of being confined, and when they are a place of rebirth. The cave with the flash of gold, the cave created by the triangle of dark birds and the flash of gold
Yeah.
beside it. It feels like this is that harbinger of, I want to say, better days are coming.
Yeah.
It's quoting a music line, you know, but it's also that sense of rebirth is coming. Let's not necessarily judge it as better, because that's my human emotional need to say everything's going to be all right,
And
because
it
we're
will
human,
be.
and it will
It
be.
will be. That's a
Right.
very mystical notion, is all is well and all shall be well. I mean, Julia Norwich has lived through the three pandemics, or four or five, how many ever came in the 13th century. And there wasn't just one.
Right.
It came back and then it left, and it came back and then it left. It changed that world dramatically.
Right.
And they lost a third of the population, a third to a half. I mean, in Alberta, we've lost close to 2,400 people out of 4.5 million. Now, statistically, that doesn't mean much.
Right.
You know, 24 out of 4.5 million, but it means a lot.
Right.
Those are people's mothers, fathers, grandparents, children, uncles, aunts, sisters, brothers. But I guess it is the mystical notion of order, reorder, and disorder. And boy, are we in the disorder phase. And it's hard to, I mean, and so it could be a harbinger, but the golden purification is the two words that may just stick with me for a long time. Golden purification.
And it feels apropos
Latin.
to mention, I was sitting in our hot tub at the time too. So it's my morning ritual of purification, of starting the day, sitting there watching these birds. It's become this daily conversation. And of course, I feel, you know, the lap of luxury to have a hot tub in my backyard. It's a new thing that we've gotten for my husband's chronic pain and saving and anxiety, and yet being deeply grateful for it. And this moment of absolute mirroring from the universe, even in this deeply modern lifestyle thing that says, yes, we had a spa tub delivered. And I sit in that every day because, you know, not being a, first century Jewish woman, I don't have a mikveh around the corner to jump into.
No, you don't.
Get this.
And neither do I.
No.
Plus, but I actually don't have a spa either. However, that could be remedied, you know, it could be remedied. Let's just leave it at that. Going outside and just being out in nature is, it seems to me, a ritual, seriously, in and of itself. But to be watch the birds is a deep delight. Just to watch them, you know.
And we create from those moments of deep delight. You know, I think in this moment of catastrophe, of disorder, as you call it, there is that need to, obviously it's the distract and buy more and let's just ignore. And then in a reaction to that, I feel like some of us all decide we need to all become, you know, do we need to become a monk in a bare cell to show that we're paying attention? There's that middle space of saying, I don't know how to create, if not from a balance of both heartbreak and delight.
Right. I think everything is an integration of heartbreak and delight, or an integration of this and that.
Yes.
Whatever is in our lives of this and that. And I don't think anybody ever really gets many answers that actually stick for a long time. By tomorrow, I will be thinking something slightly different, I'm sure.
Right.
But for today, it seems that that's a pretty good place to be.
Mm.
He's amongst three vultures and a golden hawk.